begin with, people say you're with your brother, and that's a very special relationship he and I have. But I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jerry as a baseball man, as a mentor in baseball for me. And also, the most important thing is I have a tremendous amount of respect for him as a man of faith. And like he said, we had a tremendous advantage in life. and I have a
brother love.
And I have a tremendous advantage being with him because of the many areas that I have so much respect for him in. Luke talked about being humble. Jerry talked about blessings. Like Jerry said, I was exposed to a faith life early on, and I practiced it to a degree. And I went through life, and there was things I wanted, and there was things I wanted to do. And too often I stayed focused on the things that I wanted and the things that I wanted to do. And I had opportunities in baseball. That was our life. We were a baseball family. Our great Uncle Sam, my grandmother's brother, started playing back in the 1930s and 40s. So we were exposed to baseball, always aspired to be a major league player. I hadn't even thought about being a major league coach, just being a major league player. But I went through my career, and I finished it up and went into private business. But I still missed and still wanted to be in baseball. And no matter what I did, no matter what I tried to do, no matter who I tried to talk to, I never was able to get back in the game like I wanted to be. And at a point in my life that I focused on God and focused on Jesus, and that brings me to my favorite Bible verse, Matthew 6:33. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given unto you. And I had these plans, and I thought I knew where I wanted to go and how I wanted to get there. And I thought that if I ever got there, I'd be so blessed, or I'd be in the place I wanted to be. But once I put my focus on God and my focus on Jesus, the way that he put people in my life, obviously, Jerry was still in baseball. He introduced me to some people that you may or may not know their names, but Kevin Long was a minor league coach with the Yankees while I was a minor league coach with the Brewers. Rudy Jaramillo was the hitting coach with the Texas Rangers at the time. But I mentioned these two guys because they are now recognized as two of the best hitting coaches in baseball. But I was able to interact with them, learn from them, talk with them. Jerry facilitated me getting a chance to get back into professional baseball. And as I had turned my focus on God and on Jesus, God's plan was so much better than mine had ever imagined it to be. He put me in a place that I never thought I would be, learning from people I never thought I'd be able to learn from. And now I get to be one of only 30 people in the world that's a major league hitting coach. And I give all the honor and glory to God and the people that he put in my life, and his plan was so much better than mine. I'm blessed way beyond I ever thought I could be. So I encourage you men, as there's things in your life that you want, you young boys, if you will, that there's things you want in your life, put your focus on God. Put your focus on Jesus, and you will be blessed well beyond what you can imagine you might think you want right now.
Johnny, would you like to share what it was like to mentor Josh at all, or the difficulties maybe with that, or the encouraging things with that?
I want to ask Johnny a question. Since you got a relationship with Josh, and he's going to be a free agent at the end of the year.
Doug, Melvin, and Gordash just assured me that wasn't part of the deal. But I met Josh when he was 9 years old. He was playing basketball with my son, and I went to see a basketball game. Had never seen Josh Hamilton before, and immediately I could see that he was special. He was a special talent physically. But had a relationship with Josh as he grew up, actually coached him on some 14, 15-year-old travel teams. Was around him when he was in high school, in American Legion Baseball in North Carolina. He signed and left, and I didn't even speak to him for about 2 or 3 years, and I was told that he had gone down the wrong path. And having known Josh as a young man and as a child, I didn't believe it because I didn't think it could ever happen. I said, you know, the things about the people he was being with and the alcohol addiction, the cocaine addiction, I just didn't believe it. But then I found out that actually it was true. And to me personally, it's another thing or another aspect of what I'm talking about, the God's plan. To me, it was God's plan. Because Josh was out of baseball. Josh was not allowed to play baseball for, I think, 3 years, had never played above A ball for any length of time. I think he had maybe less than 100 at-bats at AA. And if you, as fans, have watched the game being played, sometimes you lose sight of just how difficult it is to play the game of baseball, particularly at the major league level. I'm the hitting coach, and our hitters face the best pitching in the world. And Josh was given the opportunity to come back into the game. And Jerry was with Cincinnati, and Jerry's general manager talked with Jerry about bringing him back in and the game with the Cincinnati Reds. And when the general manager first started talking to Jerry about this player that was away from the game and getting a chance to come back in, Jerry didn't know who he was talking about. He finally told Jerry it was Josh Hamilton, and Jerry immediately said, "Oh, yeah, let's have it."
The GM asked me about this guy, and he had no idea that I knew who Josh was. And you know, you look back on it, and you can just see how the Lord was working in Johnny's life, my life, to really get Josh back in the major leagues. Because the GM had no idea that I knew him. And as soon as he said, I told him that I had known him since he was young, I know his mom and dad, I knew it, you know. I really believed, I even told the GM of the Tampa Bay Rays when Josh was suspended, I said I would love to have him on my club, or I'd love to be with him, because I really feel like with our relationship we could get him going again. And, you know, nothing ever came to that because I wasn't with Tampa, but our GM was telling me about the kid that had the addiction, but the Florida Marlins were going to draft him in the Rule 5 draft. And that's when I told him that I knew Josh. Let's figure out a way where we can get the pick in front of the Marlins and use the pick ourselves. So we made a deal with the Chicago Cubs, our rival in the Central, just like the Brewers and Cubs. The Reds and the Cubs are the same way. And they drafted Josh for us, and we get, you know, a prearranged deal before the Marlins, and that's how we got Josh in Cincinnati.
Well, Jerry's the manager, and one of the things that the Cincinnati Reds had agreed to do and thought was a good idea was to have a mentor with Josh. And I was with the Milwaukee Brewers. The Cincinnati Reds asked permission to talk with me, and they granted that permission. I went to the Cincinnati Reds as an assistant hitting coach and Josh Hamilton's mentor, his accountability partner. I'm sure some of you have been touched by, directly or indirectly with family or friends, alcohol or drug addiction. It's a horrible, horrible addiction. It's a horrible, horrible way of life. Josh was at the very low point in his life. He told me that he was living in houses with no heat and electricity, no running water, with people he didn't even know, because his focus was drugs. But when God opened his heart to his grandmother's words, he got back where he needed to be with Christ. He gave his life over to Christ. But that addiction is so horrible, Josh had to have things put in place that would help him guard against that addiction. Josh Hamilton today does not carry more than $20 in his pocket. Josh Hamilton needs someone to talk to when what he calls the demons come after him. So I was fortunate enough and blessed enough, the Lord put me in Josh's life and gave me the opportunity to be with him for 5 years. And I was with him during the season almost 24 hours a day. His room was right next to my room. Sometimes our rooms adjoining. He would wake me up sometime 2 o'clock in the morning. He said, "Johnny, I need to talk." And Josh fights that battle every single day. So you young people, be very, very diligent. Be very, very careful who you hang around with, what they want to do. The alcohol typically is the beginning of it. It leads into drugs and other things that will take your life away. Josh told me that when he was in the heights of his addiction, he did not care anything about anybody or anything. His wife, his children, himself, his family, the Lord. He didn't care about anything. And it's a horrible, horrible thing to fall into. But Josh and I have a special relationship. It gave me a chance to get closer to God. That was the most important thing. It also gave me a chance to be an assistant hitting coach for 5 years in the big leagues. And that was part of God's plan. So I gained a blessing from it, much more than Josh did. But last year, Josh told me he knew that some teams had talked to me about being their hitting coach. And Josh told me, he said, Johnny, if you get a chance to go, you go. Don't let me hold you back. And he and I prayed about it. Josh and I talked about it, and we still are in contact. It's a very special relationship, but I do encourage you young people in particular, be very careful about drugs and alcohol. It can take your life away.
Well, thank you, John. Those are some great words. This goes to the little ones, and it goes to us the same thing. But right now, you hear the story about Josh, how when he was young, man, in the future, it looked like there was never going to be any trouble. You look at these guys, and they go, man, growing up, there's no way Josh would be the guy who's stuck on drugs and alcohol. And I think all of us here as young ones, we never think we would get there. One of the Bible verses that really hit me was 1 Corinthians 15:33, evil company corrupts good habits. No matter how good we are, if we're hanging out with the wrong people, we're going to go down. And you saw in Josh's life, and even in our lives, before we come to Christ, those people who we hang out influence us greatly. You young ones right now, even in your school, your neighborhood, you guys can stand up for what is right. If you see things are wicked or evil, man, make a stand for what is right and true. And I'll tell you what, people will respect you a whole lot more for that than you being a follower. So for you little ones, man, you have a time right now to make a choice. Who are you going to follow? Are you going to be a leader and stand up for what is right? Or are you going to follow in the footsteps of, man, just because I want to do it, because it's easy to do that? Sometimes it's hard to be a leader. But I'll tell you what, leaders, man, are awesome. So, man, I pray for every single one of you young ones, man, be a leader, stand up for what is right in your school, your class, in your neighborhood. Because I know kids may even goof off in class, and that's funny, but, man, you guys know what I'm talking about. So that's a great lesson that we know that even through Josh, we thought nothing would ever come of this, and we saw the wickedness and the downfall that he was in. So thank you very much, Johnny, for sharing that.